People got this idea in their head that Bouffalant is just a silly-looking bison-like regional variant of Tauros back before regional variants were actual things. And honestly, no. No, it is so much more than that, and this is something I've recently learned too. I just got back home from my first ever cross-country road trip from Oregon to the Great Lakes area. Shout out to PokeCon in Minneapolis. Check it out if you're from around there. On this trip, we went to many national parks and monuments, and it was at these my wife and I first saw our first bison in the wild. A lone male, just destroying that poor bush, as they do. And it wasn't long after we came across the herd. We saw some in a little altercation. We saw this dude not shut up. And there were babies! They're a bit hard to see, but they're also orange! Being orange helps them camouflage in the grass. Dead and alive. The grass, that is. Most animals see green grass like this. But anyway, believe me, we stopped at every single spot. And sometimes we didn't need to stop because they approached us. You really do feel like the puny ape you are being near them. But no matter how much you want to, do not pet the fluffy cows. They end the lives of several overconfident people every year. You'll make your parents cry, and at your funeral they'll say, "Bison." Yes, it was. By the way, is it bison or buffalo? Technically, bison. This is a buffalo, and this is not that. But people have used the wrong words long and often enough that the meaning has changed, because that's what words do. I'm gonna stick with bison though. I mean, have you seen this thing's species name? Bison, bison, bison. It's like they're hammering it in. Stop calling it a buffalo! It's not a buffalo! On top of the national parks, we also stopped at just about every interesting museum along the way. We're the type of couple that spends 4 hours in a museum that says you can see everything in just 2. Like, we don't want to just look at the stuff with our eyes. We want to read about it and absorb everything. Knowledge is cool, and I am filled with so many cowboy facts now because there is nothing else the Middle States have except corn. One of the museums we stopped at is actually built around a partially excavated mammoth graveyard, essentially. It was a sinkhole that swallowed just so many mammoths. It was quite amazing and emotional, honestly, to think that these beasts once roamed here, right next door to suburbia. But the museum part around and behind the bones is what we're talking about in this video, because it taught me about an extinct species of bison that, oh my god, it's just Bouffalant! Like, I used to think Bouffalant was just an American bison given bigger horns to be intimidating and cool, and an afro and big hoop earrings like a 1970s American disco dancer. And it could very well still pull from those. But this is the Bison latifrons, the giant long-horned bison. I saw its long horns, compared them to Bouffalant's in my head, and then mentally filed it away for later. This is my first real vacation, not a time for thinking about work. Like, I saw a wild marmot yesterday. I'm still riding that high. It's been a month. It was so cute and so orange. It was like Pawmot, the marmot Pokemon. No, dang it! But later on in the same museum, they had a diagram on the wall of various species of American bison lined up, and you can see the height of them compared to each other and yourself, since it's life-sized. Alright, my brain is buzzing now. The biggest ruminant to ever walk the earth had even poofier head fur than the living bison, and the same long horns that Bouffalant has? Not to mention its neck is especially thick and hunched. Like, it's too perfect. This extinct American bovine is absolutely Bouffalant. And now that I'm back from my trip and fairly well rested, I'm going to tell you all about it and how it's perfect for a Pokemon for Unova, the first American Pokemon region. In a mainline game. Because, hot take, I feel like the bison is a more fitting mascot for the United States than the bald eagle. But we'll get to that, because first, in a very American move, yep, that was the fireworks show. Time to go home now and sleep on a super comfortable mattress from this video's sponsor, Helix Sleep. Did you know you spend a third of your life on a mattress? Meaning a great mattress is always a worthy investment. It impacts just so much of your overall quality of life. How well you rest, how sore your back is, how snore your back is. now. It is all impacted by how you choose to lay. But how do you choose which mattress is best for you, especially online? Everybody sleeps different, even partners. Well, my friends, Helix makes it easy. They've got an online sleep quiz that will match you and a partner to which of their 20 mattresses suits your sleep preferences best. When my wife and I took it 7 or 8 years ago, we got the Helix Midnight Lux, and so did our beautiful editor and his wife. And we all live in a warm environment. The built-in cooling cover on this one helps you maintain cooler body temperatures while sleeping. It's lovely. And we can all comfortably say that these are the best mattresses we have ever used, which is why I love the support they've shown us over the years through sponsorships. And right now, they want me to tell you about their 4th of July sale that's going on through the whole month. 27% off site-wide. Yes, everything, even the mattress toppers if you just want to give your generic mattress a nice upgrade. All you have to do is use my link at the top of this video's description, helixsleep.com/Lockstin, to let them know that I am great and you love me and good sleep, hence you checking them out. Bonus fact! Helix mattresses do not contain fiberglass, asbestos, or uranium. Only one of those things was not once a common mattress ingredient. Ooh. I'm so glad we have science. So, this extinct bison was freaking huge. Overall, around 15.5 by 7.5 feet and weighed up to 4,400 pounds. Heavier than most mid-sized cars and SUVs. And its horns from tip to tip are estimated to be as great as 84 inches. Modern bison are going to have to do something to compensate for theirs, being only 26 to 35. Such insecurity. Here's your NRA sticker. This makes lechifrons comparable to the Texas longhorn cow, whose horns are only slightly shorter at 80 inches. But their bodies still have no chance at only 900 to 1,500 pounds. Well gosh, it's no wonder why their horns may look bigger than lechifrons, not because they are, but because they are attached to a body that is a quarter of the size, all whacked out of proportion through breeding, I guess. Breeding is something lechifrons should have done more of, though, but alas. They all died out around 20,000 years ago, even though they roamed from southern Canada to northern Mexico and from California to Florida. The Ice Age starved their poor extra-large bodies, all the while they were being hunted for their fur, organs, bones, and food on those extra-large bodies. The horns, too. Extra large. The horns were often used to make tools, instruments, cups, and even adorned many headdresses. Normally, these headdresses would leave the horns as their own piece, or at most, they might tie a decorative string around the tips and connect them, but occasionally they did have rings of leather or beads put around their middles, decorating them similarly to Bouffalant's little gold rings. But not really, just only kinda. Plus, the practice was rare enough that I don't think it was a factor for Game Freak. The rings are from elsewhere. Perhaps the iconic gold rings of Afro-equipped disco dancers decades ago, Perhaps an homage to the mini metal rings put into the noses of cattle? Both? Probably both. Bison were and are incredibly important to Native Americans, especially the many different peoples grouped together as Plains Indians. And for a long time, pre-contact, they did a good job utilizing bison without endangering their population after they accidentally extinctified Bison antiquus, aka the ancient bison, by running their herds off cliffs over and over again. The Plains Indians had learned their lesson and had gone for a few thousand years getting what they needed from the Plains bison without running into population decline. Post-contact, though, is a whole other story. Manifest destiny and capitalism working as intended. Who gives a darn about future generations when I can maximize my profit now? You may have seen some of the famous photos, the piles upon piles upon piles of bison skulls, hunted for sport and trade goods in the 19th century. They were brought to the very edge of extinction in only a few decades. I can't even imagine being a young Native American back then, to be taught about these majestic creatures that have helped your ancestors for tens of thousands of years, and been taught over and over again about how they are sacred, and to be able to hunt them is a gift. A bison is a gift given to you, and it is your duty to help maintain the 60 million wild bison so that they can provide food and tools and clothing for your descendants too. But then, by the time you're a full-on adult, maybe with kids of your own, they're just gone. Completely. And for what? Most of them were just left to rot. Most were killed not for their resources, but specifically just to subjugate Native Americans even more, as the Plains Indians relied on them heavily for their traditional ways and trade. Truly disgusting. Thankfully, a small population of only 541, down from 60 million, managed to live through that. And today, there's almost 500,000 of them. Mostly in ranches, but still, every American bison living today is the descendant of that tiny group of survivors. American history is so interesting because, like, in just 3 short centuries, Americans have accomplished so many great things, showing ingenuity and resilience and determination. Like, US history starts with a group of dudes beating off the most powerful empire in the world at the time. Hello? But there's also the dark stuff. Some of the worst atrocities, all stemming from either greed or racism, usually both. Like, come on, history. Why can't we have an actually interesting villain for once, huh? Wait, maybe that's why true crime serial killers are popular. Just killing for fun, not greed or racial reasons, just fun. Like the dudes on trains shooting bison, because it's funny to watch them tumble. So why are bison so American to the point where Bouffalant had to be in Unova, even though bison don't really live in New York, let alone the Manhattan area, which Unova is specifically? Well, it's because, I mean, there are various species of buffalo and bison all over the world, and the European bison almost looks just like the American bison, and yet people barely know it exists. There's just something so special and iconically American about American bison, you know? I mean, Wyoming has a flag, like all states do. I don't know why I phrased it like that, but their flag is a bison. Straight up. It's just a bison on a pole. Clearly, bison are culturally important. And several of the towns that we visited on our road trip had bison statues, sometimes dozens, all painted differently. Clearly, bison are culturally important. My favorite one was painted like a skeleton. I'm sure that the American Bison's association with Native Americans is a factor. I mean, you can't get more American than that, unless they were also obese and in deep poverty. Oh. The American bison, as a symbol of indigenous history, reflects the deep-rooted connection to the land that existed before European colonization. And of course, the destruction of the bison can be seen as a metaphor for the broader impact of manifest destiny, where good old westward expansion displaced entire Native American nations and transformed the landscape at great environmental and cultural costs. The mass death of the bison can even be compared to the mass death of Native Americans at the time of contact as well. Some call it the American Holocaust. While not deliberate at first, at contact, the diseases Europeans carried with them and had natural resistance to spread to the native populations across the continents who didn't have any ancestral immune system to fight it off. So smallpox, the plague, influenza, and measles spread and killed millions in just a few decades. An unfortunate fate that was unfortunately bound to happen whenever contact was made, even if it were 100% peaceful. But that was just the beginning of the problems, because it was not 100% peaceful. Many who hated the natives learned that they were especially susceptible to these diseases that they also knew were contagious, and thus began purposefully spreading it with sinister intentions. A mere century after Christopher Columbus stepped foot here, 90% of indigenous Americans had died from European diseases. Then tack on the wars and the legal and encouraged massacres, and you've got several tribes and nations being totally wiped out. All in all, it's estimated that up to or even over 100 million indigenous Americans died as a direct result of contact. Such mass death and population decline is not unlike what happened to the bison, and similar to the bison's slow but steady recovery, so too are many Native American cultures. Now more than ever, we are able to truly educate communicate about their past and their culture, and while still a fight, many rights and reparations have been given. In some ways, the bison's resilience and eventual recovery after nearly being wiped out totally mirrors the resistance and survival of marginalized peoples in the face of adversity. But of course, the bison represents more than just itself and the people it lived closely with. It works as a metaphor for the very land itself too. It embodies the westward expansion. Not only was the country expanding westward, literally deeper into bison territory, but also bison themselves roamed huge swaths of land, like pure freedom, the thing America is supposed to be all about. It wasn't until that land was stolen and divvied up to various owners who put fences up that their movement started really getting complicated. The efforts to save the American bison in the early 20th century, led by conservationists such as Theodore Roosevelt, symbolize the nation's growing awareness of the need for environmental conservation. It represents a shift in American identity towards valuing the preservation of nature and recognizing past mistakes. It's truly no wonder that the bison is designated as the national mammal of the US. It's a symbol of strength and survival, and it's a reminder of both the destruction we are capable of and the possibility of renewal. Being a large, powerful herd animal, the bison could also symbolize the idea of unity within diversity. The individual animals are all part of a collective whole. The US has always been known as a cultural melting pot, and yet, despite the many different origins and colors of the skin of the people here, at the end of the day, we're all American, and it's important to collaborate and work together as an American community. All in all, the bison reflects the complexities of our past, the moments of harmony and connection with the land, the exploitation and destruction that came with industrialization and colonization, and the eventual movement toward conservation, unity, and renewal. And that's awesome. Like, yes, America did real bad things in its history. Aside from the near genocide of those indigenous here, many point to continued slavery and segregation as the darkest aspects, and yet, we abolished it. I mean, sure, we had to fight a literal war over it, which proves just how terrible and desperate people are to continue being terrible, but we persevered and won, which was awesome and difficult to do, and shows that we can recover. And recover we still are. It's an ongoing fight that shows resilience and perseverance. We're still dealing with the racial problems because, like, segregation was only legally abolished less than a lifetime ago. People in power today had parents who were the biggest racists you could possibly imagine. Parents try to raise kids with the same values as them. Do the math. And please vote. And that brings us back to the topic of the video, Bouffalant. Specifically its afro and its big gold earrings. That combo is really like the symbol of the 1970s disco dancer, most often depicted as an African-American woman. And if you think about it, the late 70s had like the first generation of young black folk who'd never had to personally deal with legal segregation. If you were born just before the civil rights movement, you'd just have entered college in the late 70s visiting disco bars and disco clubs. Society was healing, as the bison population did. But, you know, maybe I'm stretching, just trying to make connections where there aren't any, but hey, Unova, Bouffalant's home region, it's also where Pokemon's first black characters live. And while perhaps not the most racially sensitive, Bouffalant is equally as Unovan as Scraggy and Scrafty, which pull from New York black gang culture, and even the regional horse is black now. I'm sorry, that was dumb. All I'm really trying to say is that Bouffalant is definitely a black Pokemon. I mean, that's the name of the game it's in. I'm sorry, that was dumb. If the American bison itself truly symbolizes all of those things we talked about, then I'd say it makes perfect sense to apply elements associated with one of the major marginalized groups in this country. Of course, bison already having textured big hair akin to the disco afro helps, but I think another factor may be at play with this design choice. Obviously, Native Americans have a much deeper cultural connection to bison, but I think it's also kind of an overdone trope. thing? Can I say that? Is that rude of me to say? I just feel like every other building we walked into on our road trip that had a bison-related anything had it decorated Native American style. Like, it is done to death. For a mostly good and justifiable reason, mind you. I just think that maybe applying a different yet similarly persecuted culture's elements to a bison makes the Pokemon more unique. I mean, like, a bison Pokemon with feathers, a war bonnet, or a dream catcher? Wow, original Game Freak. You only see those things on every other slot machine. Hang on, was that one literally designed to look like a Native American man? My word. Oh hey, random thought to end the video with. The confusion of them being called bison or buffalo is also kind of like the confusion of what to call this group of people. Indians? Native Americans? Indigenous Americans? Are they tribes? Peoples? First Nations? There is no straight answer, it seems. It all depends on who you ask, even within the group. I say, as long as the message gets across, and nobody is upset, anything works. Just like with Bison, Buffalo. So other than Bouffalant and Braviary, who do you think is the most American Pokemon? Let me know down below, and never stop using your noggin. Bouffalant.